Welcome to our session in Managerial Economics. Today, we're going to look at an important concept. We're going to look at a theory of demand. Theory of demand. So, yesterday, we had looked at Introduction to Managerial Economics and how that managerial economics is used for decision making. It is an important tool that brings economic theory and integrates it to decision sciences in making optimal decisions. So this is a recap from yesterday's class. So today we want to now look at the demand theory. Now this demand theory is so the optimization techniques are what we looked at under calculus yesterday. So today we're going to look at the law that governs the way. We have had terminologies like a market, demand, supply. So we want to look at this key term, demand. Now, what is demand? The law of demand states that for a normal good, when the price goes up, the quantity demanded will go down. So for any normal good, when the price increases from P1 to P2, the quantity will decline from Q1 to Q2. So here we have our price, and here we have our quantity. So the demand function is given by the function P is equal to A minus BQ, where A stands for the y-intercept, where it's cutting the what? The p-axis. So our A is here. It is a point that cuts the y-axis. So we call that the intercept. And we have B, which stands for the slope. Or the gradient. So the demand equation is always negative sloped. When you're given an equation, for instance, P is equal to 10 minus 2Q. Our intercept here is at 10, and our slope is at 2. So if you're going to plot this equation, we know that our P is here, and our Q is here. So this equation, when you drop it down there, the intercept is at 10, so here we put 10. Okay. Then here on the Q, we divide this 2 into 10 to give you what? A 5. So this is how we plot the equation. So this is the equation. P is equal to 10 minus 2Q. So you and me are defined to having a rational behavior. We always want more for less. We always want more for less. Whenever the price goes up, we're going to demand less. If the price goes down, we're going to demand more. So we are always wanting more for less. That is what a human mind is made of. We have a rational behavior. On the contrary, supply also has its own law. The law of supply states that the equation of P and Q is the same as that of demand, except that in this case we have a positive gradient. So instead of having A minus, we're going to have A plus BQ. So this is the y-intercept. This is our P is equal to 10 minus 2Q. So if you want to plot this, the first thing is we put the letters on one side. P plus 2Q. P plus 2Q is equal to 10. And what number is here? Is a 1. 1 into 10 is 10. That's why we put it here at 10. Then on the Q, what number is there? We have a 2. 2 into 10, that's where the 5 is coming from. You see the gradient here is what? Is a positive, is a negative, sorry. But suppose we had our P is equal to 10 plus 2Q. The gradient here is what? Positive. The gradient is simply the letter that comes before the number that comes before the letter. So like we said, step 1, put the letters on one side for you to know how to plot. So you're going to have P minus 2Q. This one is equal to 10. So to plot this equation, what number is at P? We have a 1. So 1 into 10 is 10. We put our 10 there. And what number is before the Q? Negative 2. Negative 2 into 10, negative what? 5. No wonder we say the supply equation is always upsloping. Although we don't consider the negative side, since we don't have a negative quantity, so we usually start here. So these two parties are antagonistic. One is upsloping, the other one is downsloping. The two must meet and agree at a point called equilibrium. So where price and quantity will meet, that is what we call equilibrium. So here, for instance, we have 10, we have 5, we have 2, we have 0, we have 20. The supply function is the one which is upsloping. This is the supply function. The demand function is the one which is downsloping. So the point at which supply is equated to demand, that is called equilibrium. The point at which supply is equated to demand, that is called equilibrium. So this triangle that touches the demand is called the consumer surplus. And this triangle that is down here is called the producer surplus. We know from our grade 4 that the area of a triangle is equal to half times base times height. So if we're going to recalculate this triangle here and extract it, the distance from here to here is 5. The distance from here to here is 20. So if we're going to do the area of this triangle, half times base times height, we're going to have our base is 20 and our height is 5. So the consumer surplus will be what? 50. This is the area here. The figures that we just put arbitrarily. The figures that have been put arbitrarily. That's for understanding purposes. So this area which is down here looks like this. The distance from here to here is 20. The distance from here to here 5 minus 2, it is 3. So this is called the producer surplus. So the producer surplus, it's the same triangle. The formula is half times base times height. So our base from here to here is still 20. And our height is what? 3. You cancel this, you get a 10. 10 times 3 is 30. So we have our 30 as our producer surplus and our 50 as our consumer surplus. When we add both of them, consumer surplus plus the producer surplus gives us what we call the total surplus. So the total surplus is going to be 80. Total surplus is going to be 80. So a quick recap. We need to learn how to define demand. We also need to learn the law of demand. We need to understand the demand schedule, the demand curve, the demand function, and the factors that affect demand and the changes in the shifts of demand. These are part of what we call the demand theory. So what is demand? Demand simply is a relationship that shows the quantities of a good that consumers are willing, number one, and are able to buy at various prices, the period, holding other things constant. So we must be able to show what? The ability and the willingness to purchase goods at different prices. So that is what is called demand. So demand implies the desire to acquire it, the willingness, and the ability to pay for it. If you cannot pay for it and you desire, that is not demand. If you have the ability but you don't have the willingness, that's not demand. If you don't have the desire, none of these will come in place. So this is what demand is about. Now, demand is affected by a number of factors. For you, you need to understand the factors that affect demand. What factors affect demand? What affects your demand for a particular commodity? Number one, each one of you tell me what factors affect your demand. Chansa, Joelle, Gloria, iPhone, Moses. Please use your name so that we move with our names.
Quality.
The quality of a particular commodity. Yes. That one was.
The price.
What else?
Price.
Price of that good and the price of other goods. It will affect your zeal, your willingness to buy.
Availability.
Availability. Okay. If it's available. What else? There are many, there are more than 20. Anything. Talk about this.
The price of the complementary goods, is it supplementary, complementary goods or something like that?
The price of other goods, okay?
Yeah.
Price of other goods. She's mentioned a key term. There are many types of goods. There are actually even 12. Just mention one type of good. She mentioned one of them. Number one. types of goods.
Complementary.
Complementary goods, yes. Number 2. Substitute goods. Number 3. Answer. Normal goods, just for mentioning a normal good that follows the law of demand and supply. What are the goods? We have public goods. We have inferior goods. What are other goods? We have what are called given goods. We have public goods. We have merit goods. We have goblin. Okay, we'll discuss them later on. But briefly, I'll ask you what these ones are. Complementary goods, they move hand in hand. Car and fuel, you cannot do one without the other. Okay, we have merit goods and public goods. Public goods are provided by the government, like roads, street lighting, but public schools, private schools. Merit goods can be provided by the private entities, like private schools, we have public goods. Private hospitals, we have also public hospitals. So those are merit goods. The normal good follows the law of demand and supply. If the price goes up, the quantity goes down. All right, so we have inferior goods. These are goods you demand less of when your income goes up. For instance, a black and white TV to a color TV. When your income goes up, you want to get something higher. Great. So we're discussing the factors that affect what? Your demand. Chance, I just added one to say the test. Yes, very important. Test affects your demand. All right. What else? Taste or preference, the same thing. What else? Your income. What else? The population. What else? The culture or your beliefs. What else? Expectations. If you know that fuel will go up, people will queue up. Expectations. There are many. It could even be 20. I just need you to get the concept. Even the weather, correct. Chancellor is doing fine. The weather. Umbrellas are more pronounced when it's raining. Okay. So as a managerial, as a manager, you need to understand all these to fashioning your production to this. Now, the types of demand can either be individual or market demand. So the quantity of an individual, the quantity of an individual as commodity, their willingness and the ability to purchasing a particular commodity at a particular price during a particular period of time, given their income, which are the factors, or their taste, or the prices of other goods or substitutes and complementary goods is all individually called what? The individual demand for a commodity. So all individual demands are what make up the market demand. So your willingness and ability to purchasing a particular commodity within a period of time, given your constraints, which are income, taste, prices, price of other goods, the weather, and other things that we just mentioned. All these collectively make up what we call the individual demand for a commodity. All right. So if we have Chance's demand, okay, and we have the demand for Moses. When we add these two collectively, they form up what the market demand. So this is what now makes up what the market demand. So the market demand simply is derived from the individual demand that each individual has. So the types of demand are individual and market. So the total quantity which all the consumers of the commodity are both willing and able to purchase at a given time, given their constraints such as income, taste, price of other goods, is referred to as what? The market demand for the commodity. Are we together so far? Are we moving together? Are we moving together?
Yes.
All right. So if you have any questions where we've reached, you could ask, because I'm going to ask you questions. If you have any questions, you could ask. Why is the demand function always negative?
I wanted to ask a question.
Uh-huh.
It goes back to the first page where there was the demand curve, the real first one, not where there was the surpluses, the one before that.
The demand
I didn't
curve,
understand something there. I don't know if I
the demand
skipped
curve looks like
something.
this. Yes, this demand curve, price and quantity. So if we're given the demand function as 10 minus 2Q, to plot this, we put the letters on one side, P plus 2Q is equal to 10. 10 is our constant. So when we're sketching this, what number is on the P? There's an invisible one. 1 into 10 is 10. So put a 10 there. On the Q, there's a 2. 2 into 10 is 5. So there's a 5 here. So this is 5. So this is how we sketch. Here we have price, here we have quantity. So this is how we sketch the first curve. Does that clarify your question?
We can't hear you.
You went off for a few seconds. I think everyone couldn't hear you. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So I think, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So the question was, how did we rectify our graph here? So we're given price is equal to 10 minus 2Q. You take this on the other side, it becomes positive. Then you divide the intercepts. So 1 is on the P. So divide 1. This is a 10 here. You have a 2, the intercept on the Q. 2 into 10, we get a 5. So that's how we draw the demand curve. So this is how we derive the demand equation. Now we've spoken to say the demand comes from the individual to the market, then to the industry. So the quantity of a firm's product that can be sold at any given price is known as what? The demand for the firm's product. But the sum of the demand for the products of all the firms in an industry, that one is referred to as the market demand of the industry demand for the product. So the types of demand, we have what we call autonomous and derived demand. Autonomous or derived demand. An autonomous demand is simply a direct demand for a commodity, and this one arises on its own. in a natural desire to consume or to possess a commodity. This type of demand is independent of the demand for other commodities. There's what we call instinctive demand. It happens. So demand, which is autonomous, is what comes instinctively. The desire, you need clothing when you're born, regardless of fashion, you just need that. So we call that autonomous demand. Then there's some demand which is derived. It is given as a result of some motivation behind that. So the demand for a commodity which arises from the demand of other commodities is called derived demand or parent. For instance, the demand for fertilizer comes after you'd have done what? You'd have purchased products like seed or agricultural tools. These ones are derived demand. If you have a car, you obviously have a demand for fuel as a result of having a car. So this is what is called derived demand. And this is because of the other commodities that we have. Now, we've talked about the types of demand. We eventually go to talk about the types of goods. Now, we have what we call durable and non-durable goods. The durable goods are simply those which the total utility or the usefulness is not exhaustible. The durable goods, such as these are goods which you cannot exhaust the demand in its short term. I'll give you examples later on. They're often used repeatedly. Okay, shelter, water, and there's also non-durable goods which demand largely on the current prices, like income and fashion. They are subject to the frequent changes in the economy. So there are goods that are demanded for in a short term, and there are others that are demanded for over a long term. Now, say that there is a law that governs demand. And when we're dealing with demand, we have what we call an inverse relationship. Why? Because whilst one party is going up, the other party is going down. That is how demand is actually derived. It's inverse. Where supply is upsloping, whereas one party is going up, the other one is also going up. So this is called inverse, and this is called direct. So the relationship between price and quantity demanded is an economic law. So this economic law states that the quantity of a good demanded per period relates to its price inversely. So you can say the law of demand states that price and quantity are inversely related. That is the law of demand. Or you can simply say the law of demand simply states that the higher the price, the lower the quantity demanded. That is the law as has been explained. So no wonder we have a negative on the law of demand, on the price or the demand. Now, I mentioned that there are different types of goods. There's what is called a given good. This is one which people periodically consume more as the price goes up. So I said demand for any normal good should be that if the price of that good goes up, automatically you should demand less of it. But there's one good that violates this law. It's called a given good. This is one which people paradoxically consume more as the prices rises, thus violating the what? The law of demand. Can somebody give me an example of any of such a good?
I'm thinking of Porsche cars.
So during the Irish potato famine in the 19th century, potatoes were considered to be given goods. So These were considered to be given goods because potatoes were the largest staple Irish diet. So as the price rose, it had a large impact on the income. So people responded by cutting out on luxury goods such as meat and vegetables, and instead they bought more of these potatoes. Therefore, the price of potatoes increased, and so did the demand increase. That's where the given concept came in. The given goods are goods whose demand will go up as the price goes up. So we've talked about another good which I mentioned is called a Veblen good. It has a similar concept. So these ones actually stick status. People demand more of it as its price goes up. Like jewelry, people would want to be the only ones having it. The more expensive a commodity is, the higher the value and status symbol it has. Diamond, jewelry, emeralds. Okay, this amount is demanded for with the increase in their price. If it goes down, people will buy less of it. If something is new in the market, people would want to buy more of it. It's called a Veblen or a precious or an ostentatious good. Forget this word, it's called a precious good or ostentatious good. So this is a good that defies the law of demand. So exception to the law of demand has been explained. Now, I would ask questions at this point. Mention any 5 types of goods. Any 5 types of goods. Each one of you. Number 1, Chansa, Chuele, Gloria, Vanessa, and Moses. Mention any 5 types of goods.
Complementary goods.
Be audible.
Complementary goods.
Explain it and the examples.
Pardon me, I'm unable to explain it. I was just listing down. I missed the lecture that was taking us through this.
Okay. So these are goods whose demand will go up if the price of its complement goes down. They go hand in hand. For instance, car and fuel. If the price of a car goes down, people will buy more of the car and they will purchase more fuel. If taxes go down, people import more goods, and therefore there are goods that move hand in hand will also go down. Will also be demanded high for. Next, another type of good.
Given good.
A
Given good.
What is a given good?
It's a good whose demand goes up as the price goes up.
Example?
Jewelry.
No.
No.
Not jewelry.
No.
Jewelry is a special kind. It's a Irish potato.
We must always give the Irish potato example.
If there's something close to that, yeah, usually that's the best example that they use. For
What about milling mill in Zambia?
yes, milling mill, exactly.
Okay, sure.
All right. Which other type of good? Somebody else? Inferior. Tell me about an inferior good. This one is susceptible to the income effect. When the income goes up, you demand less of that good. Example, a Corolla and an X5. You demand more something. So this brings in the issue of the Veblen good. The Corolla becomes what? Inferior good. We demand more of a particular commodity when it has a price when your income goes up. The other one is substitute good. What is a substitute good?
It can replace or easily substitute another item.
Yes, a substitute good is simply a good with the same usage. All right. And dealing with the substitute good, we're dealing with goods that have the same usages. So we're looking at goods like margarine and butter. If the price of margarine goes up, people will demand more margarine or butter. We're dealing with the prices that we had recently, where the minister was advising that we buy candle if bread is expensive, knowing that these two goods are what? Are substitutes. If one becomes expensive, we demand more of the other. We're dealing with also maybe the cinema, Stachenico and freshly. If the price of Stachenico goes up, you switch. So we call that a substitution effect. What other goods do we know? A necessity, yes, Chancellor. Something that is needed for basic human existence, food, shelter, and housing. Excellent. All right, necessity. All right, so it's time up. We'll give you homework based on that. The factors that are affecting demand, we said the price or service of that good, the income is measured by M, Y, or I. The prices of related goods and services, like the substitute and complementary goods, the test patterns, somebody had mentioned, expected future prices, so these are the expectations, the number of consumers, which is a population, and these are important factors that affect our demand for a particular good. Now, a demand function in that vein simply shows the relationship between P and Q. The QD is a quantity demanded, the P is a price when all other variables are held constant. So we say the price function I gave you was given by what? A minus BQ. This is called the inverse demand function. You can also write it in terms of Q is equal to A minus what? BP. So this is called a demand function. Always must be negative because the relationship between price and quantity has been described as what? Being inverse. An inverse relationship. So this is our derived demand function. So if we're given a function like this is called a direct demand function here. How do we plot this? We put the letters on one side. So QD will be here, plus 5P will be here, is equal to what? 500. So to plot this one here, where are we going to cut on the p-axis and where are we going to cut on the q-axis? So the number on the p is 5. 5 into 500 is 100. What number is on the q? Is a 1. 1 into 500, 500. So this is how we plot our demand function. So QD is equal to 5P minus 500 minus 5P. So at 0,
Sorry,
when you put a 0 there, our Q will be 500. That's it, 500 here. When our Q is 0, the P comes this side, we divide it to 500 to be 100. That's the other alternative. So at zero price, demand is equal to 500 units. The second point is that it shows that there's a negative relationship between price and quantity because our gradient is what? Negative. Number three, this 5, what does it imply? The 5 is a gradient. It implies that 1 quarter, using rupees, change in price demanded. If there's a 1 quarter change in price, the quantity demanded will also change by 5 units. If we have 10 there, it means if we increase our price by 1 quarter, meaning the units will change by 10 units if there's a 10 there. That's what the gradient means. It gives you the inverse relationship. There's a question? Yes?
Yes, I had missed this part. So are you going to go through this again late at another
I'll send you the
stage?
video. I'll send you the video. Yes, but we are starting on Sunday officially. So this is
Okay.
just a catch up recap. We'll start all over again. Don't worry. So
All right.
the generalized function of demand has all the factors of demand. QD is equal to PM, PR. So what is this? The function, the factors that affect demand is the price of the good, the income, the price of related goods. Okay. So all of them are interpreted here. P stands for the price, M stands for the income, PR stands for the related goods. Okay. Then we have N standing for population. These parameters are defined. So the P in subject formula, we call that an inverse relationship. So our slope is always negative because this is a demand function. M stands for what? Income. So when we get a negative M, it means an inferior good. If we get a positive M, it means a normal good. But your M, if it's more than 1, that means it is a luxurious good. So for the related commodities, when you get a positive, it is called a substitute good. If you get a negative answer, it is called a complementary good. That is what I'll explain in depth later on. All right. So we'll end here for now. I'll send you questions this evening.